Welcome to Igniting the Spark. I'm your host, Stephanie James. Listener, I am telling you, my heart is radiating from the conversation I've been having already with the incredible Neale Donald Walsch, and I can't wait for you to come into this conversation. Neale Donald Walsch is the author of over 40 books on contemporary spirituality, including his latest book, Letters to a Young Seeker: Departing Thoughts from an Elder. Neale is best known as the New York Times bestselling author of the internationally acclaimed Conversations with God series that was translated into 37 languages. And I want to mention, too, his wife, who contributed to this book with her beautiful poems, Claire. And she's an award-winning poet and also the author of Silent, Sacred, Holy, Deepening Heart and Home Remembers Me. So thrilled to be here with you. Thank you for being here. Welcome, Neale.
Well, thank you. It's lovely to be here with you, and I appreciate the opportunity to share this time with you.
Aw, thank you.
How may I serve you?
Well, let's dive in and talk about this incredible latest offering of yours, this lovely book. And it really is resonating with me, Neale, because this idea of legacy, and leaving these inspirations or leaving this wisdom, helping people. Um, and I love that you say young seekers, but we don't all have to be young seekers to get something really meaningful out of this book.
I think that's true. And when I say young, of course, I mean young relative to me because I'm 82. So really, if a person is in their 20s, 30s, or even in their 40s, I really believe they could really pick up some valuable insights and information from the book. I sat down one day a little while ago and I thought, I wish I had known when I was 21 what I know now. Not the first person to have such a mundane thought, but I thought, wait a minute, why don't I put down what I imagine that I know now about life, thanks to my conversations with God experience, and put it into a very condensed little series of letters that I could leave for people who are, in fact, 21, or maybe even 31 or 41. And they could pick up the book and read these short little letters, each letter containing a single thought. And I gathered together what I thought were the 21 most important messages that I had received in my 9-book Conversations with God dialogue. So I condensed them down and put them into the book. And then my darling, my wonderful wife said, you know, i- in order for the book to have a little bit broader of an impact, you may want to consider some good poetry in the book so that messages for the mind could be transferred and changed into magic for the heart. So she found she had written already and published 2 award-winning books of poetry, as you mentioned a moment ago. So she went through her list of poems and picked out poems that she felt were particularly applicable to the messages that I was leaving in my 21 letters. So there we have a collection of very brief letters. You could read them one at a time or all at once, in a Sunday afternoon because it's a very thin little book. But I think it's a powerful book because it contains information that I truly and really wish that I had had in my arsenal of life equipment when I was 21 or even 31 or even 41. It wasn't until I was into my 50s that I began to understand even a little bit about how life works and what it's all about. So I hope that people who are younger will have the opportunity to take a look at those messages. And for me, it's given me a chance, Stephanie, to leave a legacy, to have something, you know, it just makes me feel good to know that when I leave here, I've left something behind that could be a benefit to those who follow me.
Mm, beautiful. Yes, and there is, Neil, in reading through this book myself, there is some beautiful divine alchemy, I think, that is created by your and M's interweaving of the letters and the poetry, it's like it takes on a whole different language of the soul.
Thank you for saying that, and that's what we had hoped would happen, and I agree with you that that's, the impact that it has had, in the collection of these messages from conversations with God. So, we achieved what we set out to do, and now I hope that people will have a chance to pick up the material and bring it into their own life.
Well, and it's so accessible. I was curious, Neil, do you feel like it's gotta be read chronologically? Like, do you need to read them in order, or can you open it up and see what speaks to you?
Yes, I think that you could really pick it up almost anywhere. I think it makes some sense if you read it, chronologically in order because one point builds upon the other.
Yeah.
But even if you opened it up in the middle of the book and read something, you might say, "Gee, I wonder what led to this particular article, this particular item," and then you might be inspired and, kind of invited by your mind to go back to the beginning and see how it got to where you found it. So, it's a book that can be read in any way that serves you. But Letters to a Young Seeker is exactly what it is. It's just a series of short, brief, not long letters. Most letters are like 6 or 8 paragraphs long, very short, brief letters. But each letter ends with one of the most important messages that I was given in my conversations with God dialogue.
Mhm, mhm. And can we talk about one of those messages? There
Oh,
there
of
were a
course.
couple that really stood out to me, Neil, and one I thought was so apropos for what's going on in our world right now, and that was this inner awareness, number 17 in the book, which is pain and suffering are not the same thing.
Yes. Pain and suffering are totally different experiences. Pain is a psychological or emotional experience, but suffering is our decision. Suffering results from a decision that what's going on shouldn't be happening. And my awareness is that everything that's occurring leads to the evolution of our species. And therefore, in that sense, one could say it should be occurring because it's part of the forward movement of each of us individually and of our species collectively. So, yeah, I've decided to stop suffering by making a judgment that something shouldn't be happening and just allow myself to move into a whole different response to what is happening, both in my life and in the world at large. And my response has moved from suffering to gratitude. That's an interesting transition to go from suffering to gratitude. I've had my own share of defeats in my life, like all of us have had. I've had some relationships that didn't work out the way I'd hoped they would. I've had some jobs that came to an end in a way that I had not wanted. We all have our little setbacks for sure. But I decided, you know what? I'm not going to suffer when the next setback comes along. I'm going to simply move into gratitude. Thank you, God, for this next opportunity for me to move forward in the growth of my awareness, of my consciousness, and in the process that we call evolution. So that for me is the difference between pain and suffering. And the example I like to use, that pain does not have to necessarily produce suffering, is a woman in childbirth. I've been present when ladies have given birth. I have 9 children, and I was present for the birth of several of them. I mean, in the exact moment of their birth, I was right there standing there.
Mhm.
And I saw these wonderful ladies. Not only were they not suffering, they actually had tears of joy running down their face as they experienced the pain. There was no question they were experiencing pain, but they didn't experience the pain in a way that caused them to suffer. They allowed themselves to know that the pain was giving birth to new life, and the tears of joy that ran down their face. Unbelievable. So when we understand that all events, even those that cause us emotional or physical pain, bring us to a place of rebirthing the self. It's all about birthing. Then we might shed tears of joy and say, "Thank you, God, for this latest experience of life, which is moving me forward in my process of growth." Maybe that's a fanciful way of looking at things, but it's changed my life.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I think it's so powerful because I am not hearing you say, "Don't feel your emotions," or "Don't feel the sorrow," or "Don't feel the pain," because that's inextricably a part of our human experience here. And yet there's almost this transcendent quality when we don't remain or turn it into suffering. By as you said, I think that that is absolutely true. Michael Singer said, "Suffering is when we want this moment to be anything other than what it is." And that's what I'm hearing you, reiterate. And so when we come to this place of acceptance and this place of like, this is what's here, how do we then move into I love this, instead it's the tears of joy because it's almost like you've heard the thing like life isn't happening to you, it's happening for you.
Yes, not only is it happening for you, but conversations with God said to me, "Neil, life is not happening to you, it's happening through you." That is, you are at least partially at cause in the matter. You're not just, you know, watching the passing parade and hoping that it's going where you want it to go. You're leading the parade of your own life. You are at cause in the matter of what is occurring in your day-to-day experience, particularly with regard to your response to it, which
Yes.
is what causes and creates the next event often in your life. How we respond to the present so often creates our future. That's been my
Yes.
experience.
Yes. Yes. I absolutely hear that, and so that resonates so much with this message, and I do love that because I know and I hear it's not just a switch that switches us into gratitude. It's being in that process of I don't have to just stay in the shoulds of how it should be, and I can look for that opportunity of, "Thank you that this is what is."
Yeah, I avoid the word should altogether. I'm going to have a
Me
bumper
too.
sticker. I'm going to create a bumper sticker. Don't should on yourself.
You and I are so we're so in link. That is what I would tell my clients for the last 20 years. I would say, "Don't should on yourself," and if I had a bumper sticker, that is exactly what it would say, Neil. "Don't should on yourself." I love that so much. Oh, it's perfect, but it's true, right? Because when we do that, it's like we're guilting ourselves, we're shoulding on ourselves, and it makes everything
Yes,
worse.
yes. That's been my experience for sure.
Mine as well. Mine as well. Well, I wanna go on to one of the other things in the book that was so powerful, even just the title of this letter really hit my heart. "When did you stop singing?" And this inner awareness of you are the creator of all of your reality.
Which we were just talking about a
I
moment ago.
know, I know.
Yeah. And what I've come to understand in my life is that I am, at the very least, co creating, if not unilaterally creating my present reality by the energetic that I put into my life in the moments before this present reality. So that I am an energy projector. We all are, of course. Life is nothing more than energy being projected. And energy impacts upon itself, which I wish someone had told me that when I was 25. I didn't really understand. But energy impacts upon itself. Or to put it another way, the energy that I put into the world returns to me from the world.
Mm.
Life is circular. It's not a straight line from beginning to end, in my understanding. I used to think of life as a straight line. You're born, you live your life, and then you pass on. But in fact, God said, no, take that straight line and click toward the top so the ends meet at 12 o'clock high. And then God asked me an interesting question. At 12 o'clock, midnight, at precisely 12 o'clock, is it the end of the previous day or the beginning of the new one? Oh, I see. It's both. Because how the day ends impacts how the day begins. And the energy that you put into the world, Neil, will come back to you. So be aware of what and how you're thinking and think the thoughts and share the emotions that you wish to experience. Because what flows through you sticks to you. That's what I was told, and that's been my experience.
Yes, I love this. It's so true, and so going back to the title of that letter, when did you stop singing? What happens to us, Neil, when we stop singing?
We stop receiving the most wonderful melodies of life as part of our reality. So don't stop singing. Don't stop smiling. Don't stop laughing. And don't stop sharing your joyful smile and your serene love with all those whose lives you touch. Share love with everyone. That's the best way to sing. And there are little ways to share love. God said to me, Neil, do me a favor. She said, give people back to themselves. I never heard anyone put it to me quite like that. I said, wow, why didn't somebody tell me that when I was 25? Move through life and give people back to themselves. Could I give you an example of what I'm talking about?
Please, yes.
I was coming out of a coffee shop a few years ago, and a policeman was putting a ticket on my car. I had overparked, and my parking meter time ran out, and he was putting a ticket on my car. So I walked over to him and I said, "Officer, could I talk to you?" And he said, "Yeah." I'm sure he thought I was gonna give him a ration for putting a $47 parking ticket on my car. But I walked over to him and I said, "I want you to know something. I am aware. I am not unaware that when you put that piece of silver on your chest, that badge on your shirt, you're making a silent promise to yourself. You're promising to put yourself between me and any harm that could come to me, even if it costs you your life. And I want you to know how much I appreciate your making that promise. I feel safer today because you're here. If something bad were to happen right now, I know you would stand between me and any harm that could come to me." He looked at me and he reached for the ticket that he put under the windshield of my car, and he started to make a motion to tear it in half. I said, "No, no, 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 we're not doing that. This was not quid pro quo. I was not giving you, a compliment because I wanted you to tear up my ticket. You're just doing your job. Please put the ticket right back where you put it. You're doing your job, and I appreciate every part of how you do your job." And he walked over to me and he said, "You know what? I've been on this force for 27 years, and no one has ever said anything close to what you just said to me. You haven't just made my day, you've made my career." And he turned around and he quietly walked away. I'm not bragging here. I'm just trying to give you an example of what it means when you give people back to themselves. Tell people what you see in them. Share with them the divinity that you find there and let them know. It's really quite simple and it's easy to do. The clerk behind the counter at the post office, I got in his line and I said to him, I'm so glad I got in your line and not someone else's. He said, really why? I said, because you're so good at what you do. My past experience of you tells me you know the rules, you understand how it works, you help me rapidly, I move through quickly, I get done what I need to get done. Plus, you're very friendly and you have a wonderful way with people. He looked at me and he said, thank you for saying those nice things to me. Again, I'm not bragging, I'm just trying to say that give people back to themselves. Allow people to think about themselves the way they thought they were when they were 8 years old. When I was 8, I thought I was wonderful. And God said, "You're right, and don't forget it." It's true of all of us.
Yeah.
So as you move through your life, find a way to give people back to themselves. I'm going through this checkout line at the supermarket, and I noticed something about the cashier. And when I got in front of her, I told her, "Wow, you're really wonderful with people. I saw how you took care of that lady ahead of me who took like 5 minutes to find her credit card because she forgot where she put it. And you were so patient and so kind and so understanding, so good with her. What high level people skills you must have to be a cashier and be dealing with 35 people every day in your life this way. I'm telling the manager about you." And she said, "Oh, gosh, thank you." And I did. I
Mhm.
looked up the manager. I asked the next employee, "Who's the manager?" And the lady said, "Well, it happens. I happen to be the manager of the store." I said, "Oh, I'm so glad I ran into you. I want you to know that the lady on cash register number 5 is really incredible." She said, "I know. We all know that she is. But thank you for confirming
Mm.
our experience of her. That will go into her file." That a customer was touched deeply enough by her that felt the need and the desire to share that with us. So, my friend, as you move through your life, give people back to themselves. You will find more opportunities to do so than you would think of.
Neil, I keep hearing in my mind as you're talking about this, just these little love deposits. It's just these little love deposits and all these beautiful opportunities that are just in our everyday lives.
Absolutely. That's precisely the point. You can bank on it.
Mm.
Make your love deposit in the love bank.
I love it. I love it. And how, this feels like such an essential message too, Neil, for how or what we're dealing with right now in our world. I mean, this is such an essential message because so many of my clients will come to me and say, "I feel helpless. I don't know what to do." And I try to remind them that some of what you're saying right now is it. That it's not that we can always change everything outside of us, but when we can let that light and love come to us and through us, and we are being that love.
Gandhi put it perfectly. The answer to that question, I feel so helpless. What can I do? Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world. Just move through the world and be the change you wish to see. And you know what's interesting? People might say, well, what good will that do? But if enough of us do that, we would reach what we call critical mass. And then the first domino falls and everything changes. And that's happened in history. That's not a fanciful thought. And there's not just making that up. Gloria Steinem changed the world's idea about how women should be paid equal to men. If they do the same work and with the same level of efficiency, why should they not earn the same salary? But for the first 40 years of my life, it was that men earned more than women, even if they did the same job.
Mhm.
So until Gloria Steinem came along and said, "I'm sorry, that doesn't make any sense to my heart or to my mind."
Beautiful. That's it. That's it.
And there were many, many other people, you know, that Martin Luther King Jr. stood up at one point and said, "I have a dream that all men are created equal, and that one day the men shall be judged by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin." And it changed the prevailing reality. So individuals, by being the change they wish to see, can touch enough lives that sooner than later the first domino falls and changes occur. One could even have a podcast that reaches hundreds of people. Who knows?
It's truly, I thank you. Thank you for sharing this wisdom. I mean, this is to me the essential message that we're really needing right now, and that each person's contribution, as we were just talking about, in making those love deposits or in showing up and being the change that they want to see in the world, that does then become the tipping point where those dominoes tip over. I got full body chills when you said that.
I believe that it is the tipping point, and I think that another major factor would be if we decide to learn to disagree agreeably.
Mm.
Because I don't agree with everything that's going on in the world, and I don't agree with some of the pronouncements of certain people in the world. But if I can find a way to disagree agreeably, when people come to me and they start spouting off about, what somebody else is doing or saying, some national leader or some worldwide figure, and I say to them, "But you're duplicating what you're criticizing. You're sounding like exactly the person you criticize.
Mhm.
So don't duplicate what you denigrate by your own behaviors. Find a way to disagree agreeably."
And how do you do that, Neil? How do you personally do that? As you're seeing this change and this, in your 82 years, you've seen, Vietnam War and civil rights movement and all these different huge changes that have happened in the world.
I simply, if I'm asked about what's going on and how I feel about it, I simply say, I don't agree with what this person just said, but I honor and respect their right to say it. We all have an inherent right to speak and to live our truth. And I don't have to agree with your truth to respect it.
Mm.
And that doesn't mean that I refuse to oppose it. I might actually actively oppose what it is you're doing or saying, but I will do so with kindness, with compassion, with understanding, with caring, and with love. I will disagree agreeably. That's why it's not called an uncivil rights movement. I'm not going to be uncivil. I'm going to be civil. And when we decide to behave in that way, even with regard to that with which we disagree, we begin to create a new nuance in the world.
That's it.
That's my understanding. I could be wrong about
Yeah.
all of that, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
Or
Yes.
as a man said, there was a guy, there was an interesting guy walking around here. on this planet around, oh, roughly 2,000 years ago, who put it rather simply, I thought, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Wow, what simple, wonderful wisdom.
And what touches me, Neil, about that too, that beautiful wisdom is also just what you had talked about when God gave you that 12 o'clock moment of what you're putting out into the world, you're getting back. So as we're treating our neighbors this way, that's the energy we're putting out into the world.
Yes. And God said to me, Neil, here's the formula. Whatever you want to experience more of in your life, more humor, more understanding, more compassion, more patience, whatever you want more of in your life, don't be a seeker. I used to be really proud. I used to think of myself when I was younger. I'm a seeker. I'm a spiritual seeker. God said, Neil, don't be a seeker. Be the source. Whatever you want more of in your life, be the source of it in the life of another. Because what you source to another, if you want more humor, you want more companionship, you want more forgiveness, you want more patience, you want more sex, whatever you want more of, be the source of it in the life of another. And you will discover that you are actually bringing it back to you for a very elegant reason. There's only one of us in the room. There's nobody else here but another part of you. And when you understand that the person across the room is simply you, looking a little like someone else, but another element of who we all are. And when you treat that person in that way, watch your life change. That's been my experience.
Well, and Neil, you know, eh, because of the title, the secondary title being Departing Thoughts from an Elder, what came to my mind as I read that title was, oh my goodness, that thought of our mortality, that thought of us, departing from this world. And, you inspired me to write a book about this, in our last conversation. And I thought about, did I ask Neil what your thoughts are about mortality? Part of it is this beautiful book that you're leaving as a legacy, which is so important. And what are your thoughts? And I know you talk about this in conversations with God, but what are your thoughts on mortality? And as my book is, your big, fat, juicy life and everything after, what is everything after?
Well, I described it all in a book called Home with God in a Life That Never Ends. So I think we all agree, that is, you and I agree, that death does not exist. It's simply a change of address. We don't cease to experience ourselves as the individual soul that we are. We simply move from the realm of the physical into the realm of the spiritual. And there we experience pure love, joy, ecstasy, bliss. And if we choose to, we don't have to, it's not required, but we may choose to voluntarily return to the realm of the physical in the process that we've come to call reincarnation. And we can return to the realm of the physical anywhere, not just on Earth, but in any one of the places in the universe where sentient beings exist. And of course, we know that there are beings that exist. There's, life on other planets, obviously. And in some places where there are highly evolved beings, having evolved way past where those of us on Earth are currently experiencing life. So, yeah, what I understand it exists after death is We go home, we're home with God, and then we can choose to go back if we wish to, or we don't have to if we don't want to. Most of us do choose to come back because the joy of expressing, not just knowing, but expressing who we are. That's what the realm of the physical offers us. The opportunity to express and to experience, to demonstrate our true identity as individuations of divinity. And we can demonstrate it in the realm of the physical because in the realm of the physical, there is that which we are not. That the realm of the physical is a contextual field that contains light and dark, what we call good and evil, what we call up and down, fast and slow, big and small, here and there, contrasting elements, what we are and what we are not. And in the absence of what you are not, what you are is not experienceable. So, in order to experience yourself, to use a metaphor, as the light, you would have to be in the darkness. Then you could know what it's like to demonstrate being the light. Therefore, raise not your fist to heaven and curse the darkness not, but be a light unto the darkness, that you might know who you really are, and that all those whose lives you touch might know who they really are as well. Just a thought, just a stray thought. It may not have any value to anyone, but it's just what I've come to as a result of my experience in life.
That's beautiful.
I wish I had come to that when I was younger. It's easy to speak wisely when you're 82, but why not when I'm 22 or 32 or 42? Which is why I produced the book, Letters to a Young Seeker.
That's right. That's right. So that they may open their hearts and minds as they alchemize this wisdom as well, and maybe a few decades earlier than you.
Wouldn't it be nice? And wouldn't it actually change the world if we reached critical mass in the number of people who chose the high road?
Yeah, that's it. Well, and Neil, as we're getting closer to the end of the interview, I'm curious for you when you look ahead now, what is it? What in Neale Donald Walsh's life do you say, I want to still do that. I want to experience this. This is what lights me up. What is that?
Pure love. I want to experience not only receiving, but more importantly, giving pure love. Frankly, to everyone and to everything. The apple tree in the backyard, the plants in my garden, the dog running around my living room, and of course every other human being who crosses my path in the world. I want to experience myself as the source of pure love. And pure love is the kind of love that needs, requires, requests, and of course demands nothing in return.
Mm.
Finally, after all these years, I found a way to look at the person across the room, to look at the person on the pillow next to me, and to say, I don't love you because of what I get from. I love you because of what I see over there. I love you because of who you are. And I want you to know, darling, that I love you with three magic words. I love you no matter what.
Thank you.
Which is how God loves us,
Yeah.
unless I'm mistaken. And I don't believe that I am. So God has taught me about pure love and shown me that there are ways for me to allow it to move through me to others. I love you no matter what.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you for that. Thank you for this
You know what?
incredible
Can I add a
conversation.
closing thought?
Yes, yes, I was gonna ask you what is
Well,
a
well,
message that
because,
you
when
wanna
people
leave?
say when people hear me say, well, pure love is being able to say to a person, "I love you no matter what," they say, "Well, what if they hurt you? What if they,
Okay,
do
yeah.
something, does that mean they can do anything?" And I say to them, "You know what? We have to understand, love is not a transaction. It's not like a trade deal between nations. I'll give you this if you give me that. God's love is not transactional, and our love is not a transaction. I don't love you if.
Mm.
I love you because of what I see across the room. You can't hide from me. I see."
Thank you. Whew, that just touched my heart so deeply, as I know it will everyone who's listening to this. Because that's the purity of love that is gonna transform the world, Neil, and each one of us to be in that pure love with one another.
I believe so. And I have loved being on this program with you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. It's such a joy to be back with you and to share this time together. Thank you for sharing your light and your wisdom and your joy with all of us.
You're so welcome. Thank you for asking.